I'm very happy to meet you all. And we are going to dream together. And dreams are very important. Not the dreams that we have during sleep, the dreams we have while we are awake, our visions that compel us and push us to action. So we go straight away into the dream. So you are going to dream with me. And then you dream of a world where people everywhere are given a small challenge to organize themselves into neighborhood parliaments of about 30 families each. And in these neighborhood parliaments, they have also the ministers to attend to the concerns of the neighborhood and also the concerns of the wider world, like say environment, gender justice, health, or whatever. The concerns of the wider world to which the neighborhood would like to make a response. So they that way form a neighborhood parliament. And then these neighborhood parliaments send representatives to the next level parliament. That's the ward level parliament. For time being, that's the way we call it now. Then the second level parliaments again elect representatives to the next level parliament, third level, and third level elects the fourth level like this. So nobody elects from below straight away to the national parliament. One parliament elects the other parliament. And then this whole structure, this multi-tier federation, we say multi-tier global federation because we think about neighborhood parliament, ward parliament, panchayat parliament, union parliament, district parliament, state parliament, national parliament, international parliament, and global parliament. This is the dream of a multi-tier global federation of neighborhood parliaments of about 30 families each. And then we say this multi-tier global federation should be guided by 5 principles. Principle number 1, smallness, both at the base and at every level above. The parliaments have to be small in size. Why should it be small in size? Could anybody answer? We say it should be small enough that everybody could sit together in one circle, nobody behind anybody else, and they must be able to talk without a microphone. That's the size, smallness. And why should it be so small? Could anybody answer? They could put the answers in the chat. Yeah.
Edwin, all their mics are mute. So
no, they could put in the chat form.
You cannot have an interactive session. You have to.
Okay, fine, very good, fine. That's good. So when normally we have this principle, the bigger a forum becomes, the more it becomes a game of the bigger voice. If you are, say we are some 30 people, anybody can talk, even the last voice will be heard, everybody can participate. But when it becomes bigger, say instead of 30 it becomes 300, you need a bigger voice. And when it becomes 3,000, still bigger. And then you need a microphone. And when it becomes 300,000, what happens? The poor people with small voices cannot talk. And we have a parliamentary constituency here. I am in Kanyaman now. It has 20 lakhs, that is 200, 100,000 people. In such a big constituency, well, any poor person with a small voice Will he have any say at all? It cannot be. So he becomes a non-participant. His voice gets drowned. When he has no voice, he becomes a nobody, and he finds a kind of a helpless fellow. And then Gandhiji also would say, in a face-to-face community, one cannot go on fooling others for long, cheating others for long, because there is a kind of immediate accountability. So it's a kind of transparent situation, accountable situation, a situation where everybody is somebody, even the last voice counts. So that way we want that both at the neighborhood level and then at every level above, the last and the least voice counts, and the last and the least person matters, and he is also somebody and not a nobody. And that's the principle of smallness of size. Now we go to the second principle. The second principle follows from the first. If this has to be small, it can contain only so many people. And next level, if that has to be small, it can contain representatives from only so many first levels. So it can contain only so much segment of the population. Then still third level, same way, it can contain only so many representatives from the second level. It can contain only so much segment of the population. So if you go this way, it would be numerically uniform at every level. The parliaments. No parliament is bigger at any level than any other parliament. If you go that way, no ward will be bigger than any other ward. No district will be bigger than any other district. And no state will be bigger than any other state. And also no nation will be bigger than any other nation. So if you go by that principle, when every nation is of the same size as regards population, we don't have border wars anymore. And when we don't have border wars anymore, we have practically no war at all, because most of the wars takes place because of boundary issues. But when the whole world comes under one government with numerically uniform nations, there cannot be scope for any war. And when we have no wars, no army, no defense expenses, which normally eat away more than half the budget of every nation, and then all the money that goes for expenses like nuclear armament and such destructive purposes can be channeled for constructive purposes like health, then education, recreation, healthier environment, like this. So and the money gets constructively used. And then we have the third principle. The third principle is subsidiarity. You see, at every level, we can have a subsidiary position and a main position. Suppose this is subsidiary here, this becomes main. Next level, this becomes subsidiary, this becomes main. The next level, this becomes subsidiary, the other one becomes the main. So we subsidiary, that means branch, main branch. We could put it another way, centralized, decentralized. So our principle will be like this. Whatever can be done at any subsidiary level, don't take it to any main level. The higher levels or the centralized levels deal with only those matters that no lower level can handle. If you go by that principles, most of the decisions will have to be taken at the base. And when the decisions are to be taken at the base, what happens? People in every neighborhood parliaments have to come together, or they have to be consulted this way or some other way. They'll have to be taken into account. And then the decisions have to be made accordingly. Because suppose an important decision is made, this is only a unit of 30 families, and I am not consulted. I ask, what about me? Why didn't they consult me? Don't I matter? So they will be able to interact. And when he is consulted on various issues, what happens? He feels, I also matter. People are consulting me. I am also an important. I am not treated here as a non-person. I am treated as a person. I am recognized. I am affirmed. And everybody wants only this recognition. When people compete in terms of riches, taller buildings, costlier cars, and then costlier jewelry and all these things, what do they expect? Only recognition. And here, in this very process, a recognition is automatically given, and it has a healing process. It has a psychologically therapeutic effect. And people will be happy. So that's the third principle. So we began with smallness, then we came to numerical uniformity, third we came to subsidiarity. The next one is very important because now we have elections every 5 years. And then after electing, we find that the person whom we elected doesn't respond to our concerns. And he doesn't do his job properly, or he even betrays us. Right now, we have no other way no way to call that fellow back. He'll have to bite our teeth and grudgingly wait for the next elections to come. And when the next election comes, also we are not sure that this fellow will be unseated. Because earlier I said, when the forums get big, only the big voices talk. And normally this is big in terms of money. Because in a constituency, in a forum of 100,000 people, you cannot talk with your mouth, not even with your microphone, and you need lot more. You need vehicles, you need rallies, you need various other events, you need to build a brand, and you need to buy media power, and maybe you need also to bribe. All this means only the rich people can really talk. And then the ordinary people have no power, they cannot call back. And then when the rich people get elected, within these 5 years, they will become even more rich. And that means even more powerful, even bigger a voice. And most probably they themselves will stand as the candidates next time. And such candidates only will come. And the people again will be compelled to choose between the devil and the deep sea like. And so we are in a helpless situation. We cannot win. We failed last time and we were let down, and next time also we'll be let down. This is the scenario. And now we say, since we come up with this principle of recall ability. That means, suppose you are electing your candidate for the next level and you are not finding him functioning properly, any day you can recall because the forum is small. Any day you can call your face-to-face forum and decide to call back at any level from below. The level immediately below has the scope every day on a day-to-day basis to have a meeting and call back the fellow they elected from their level to the level immediately above. So if at every level, the level immediately below can call back their representatives, at the end, power remains with the people at the base, not only on a once in 5 year basis, but on a day-to-day basis. And when power remains at the hands of the people who are at the base, who are normally the poor, what happens? Their problems will be addressed. Their poverty will be ended. And their needs will be met. And they will feel not only empowered, but also they will feel that they have all possibilities for growth and happiness. And that's the principle, recall ability. Any day, if you can recall an elected representative at any level, from one level to the level immediately below. So this way, we want to have a world that people are totally empowered. And then, how will this come about? You see, I ask normally a question. How long will it take for the entire world to get organized this way? The whole world to be organized at the first level only, as neighborhood parliaments to begin with. How long will it take? People come with a lot of answers. Some say it will take 1 year, some say it will take 30 years, 40 years, like this. Then at the end we say, in principle, only 1 day. Then I ask, what could be the reason why I say it? In principle, it is just a 1 day's job. They give various answers. I just say this one. To organize your parliament, you don't need to take a bus. You can just clap hands and then invite them. Or at the most, you go visit the houses and then invite them, bring them together. So, to organize your parliament, to get them together, see, we have something to do that will mean a lot of power and progress for us, a lot of happiness for us. Why don't we come together? We'll come together and elect a convener to begin with. Then we shall slowly elect the people responsible. And then, so to organize your neighborhood, you don't need more than a day, and the whole world is only a neighbor. So the whole world can be organized. And then to tell the whole world that this is something very important for our progress, this is something very important for our empowerment, this is something very important to solve a problem of poverty, problem of lack of access to health, education, and whatnot. This is a very important provision, very much required, an essential position. So we request you to come together in your neighborhood to tell the whole world this message, to give them also the convincing reasons. In this modern world, where you can just take your cell phone and tell the other end of the world, person in the other end of the world, some news telling, give us a message. And when in a world where when the president of a country dies, the next moment the whole world knows. In such a world, it's not difficult. It doesn't take more than a day to tell the whole world that we must all come together, and this is very important. And then maybe it may not work if I think of it, but if the people with the right access think about it, with all the media access at hand, it will not take more than a day. But then comes the next question. Okay, you organize, but are you sure it will survive? It will continue? People will keep coming together? Will it sustain itself? And that's a big question. Now, what do we do for that? How to ensure that people keep coming together constantly, that they own it up, they say it is ours. How do we ensure that we feeling a sense of collective ownership, a sense of deep belonging and commitment, where say we want to come together, we will not give this up, and we will see that it sustains. How do we ensure that? You see, we had a kind of a small experiment in our district in Kanyakumari. In our district, we have some nearly 5,000 neighborhood communities, started by the Catholic Church. And if we go and ask today any person in that area, which neighborhood community, that is church community, which neighborhood, they call it NVM, which NVM do you belong? They immediately say number 13 in this village, number 14 in this village, like this. Not everybody is able to say that. And even so much so, even the post office people find it easy to deliver letters with the name of the neighborhood mentioned. Last time when tsunami happened also, it became easy to distribute the materials, relief materials. It is, easy means, for this neighbor so much, for this neighbor so like this. So this way, we start, we people have that sense of identity with that neighbor. That means, they feel identified with the neighborhood. They say, I belong to this neighborhood. How did this happen? When we analyzed, initially in those communities, we had the one thing to do. That means there is to be Sunday Mass, and they say, they would say, this preparation for the Sunday Mass will be done by these neighborhood communities on a turn basis, one after another, like that, no? Okay. And so when they have to take turn, and when their turn comes, they have to see, okay, we have to do something, and who are all these we? And then who is outside, who is inside? And among those who are inside, who has what contribution to make, what talents, what other provisions to contribute. So this way, when they interact and do things together, they become more and more glued together. And their we feeling grows, and their collective ego gets reinforced. And once you reinforce the collective ego of any group adequately, they will never give it up. They will never allow anybody else to let down that or to bypass that. And they ask, are we not here? Why didn't they consult us? That they will ask. So if you want to create that kind of collective ego, a collective ownership, a collective we feeling, sense of responsibility, then the best way is to give them roles, things to do. They should have enough reasons to come together, and reasons to come together are enough roles to perform, enough things to achieve, enough tasks to perform. So to achieve this, we come up with the fifth principle. The fifth principle is convergence. Convergence means once you have these structures, ensure that almost everything is done through these structures. So if it is health matter, have a health minister there. If it is environment, have an environment minister there. If it is physical exercise, okay, somebody in charge, done through that. And then if it is greening, okay, neighborhood-based greening, neighborhood-based organic agriculture. Like this, whatever you neighborhood-based banking, neighborhood-based savings and credits, neighborhood-based income generation programs, neighborhood-based marketing. So almost everything we have to do, we must see that whatever can be done through these structures are done only through these structures. So instead of just one activity to get them come together, now there are plenty of activities, plenty of reasons for them to come together and work together. So when they work together, their neighborhood parliaments get strengthened, and this has to be strengthened only from below. It cannot be strengthened from above because the powers that are above may not be very happy with the idea of neighborhoods, people at the base getting organized, because those of power very rarely like to part with that power. So it has to be strengthened from below. And for strengthening from below, the best, the most unfailing measure is to see that whatever you do, as much as possible, you do through this neighborhood structure. And then, so initially we present this dream, the dream of a world that gets organized as neighborhood parliaments, which get federated at various levels, and which has ministers at every level and departments at every level, governments at every level, and then which get guided by the 5 principles that I mentioned. One is smallness, another one numerical uniformity, third one subsidiarity, fourth one recall ability, and then fifth one convergence. Then we ask these people, the participants normally in the seminars, we ask them this question: suppose this happens, suppose this comes through, what kind of a world will we have? What present day problems will not be there? What good aspects will be there? And then we ask them to discuss in groups, and then they come together with answers. And then name any evil that is in the present day world, they say it will not be there. Name any good ideal that would opt for, they say it will be there. Equality, justice, fairness, happiness, everything they will say, whatever we can name, they say it will be there. Then to the answer to the question, what type of a world will that be, they become very poetic. It will be a paradise on earth, it will be kingdom of God, it will be heaven below, like this go on. And then we just ask, okay, we did not ask you much to do. All we asked you is a small thing, just to organize your own neighborhood and have a neighborhood parliament. It's not a big deal, and that's just that small change ensures that we have heaven here below. Then why not we go for it? And actually, it's not a big thing at all. Some people get frightened when I speak about this global federation and so on. No need. I just say, very simple thing only. All you have to do is to organize your own neighborhood. 30 families into a parliament. The rest will automatically follow. So, small dream. We already have, in our government, we already have wards. And then, below Panchayat, we have wards. All we ask is make every ward subdivided into a kind of mini wards or sub wards of 30 families each. Even legally, at one stage, this parliament Panchayat was brought in. Now, if another prime minister could say the wards will be made into sub wards for better participation, a lot of problems get solved. Then, when the neighborhood gets strong, everything else follows. So, a big big scope, but only a small commitment from our part. That is to organize your own neighborhood to begin with. Then gradually get your friends to organize their neighborhoods. Gradually have a wards about. It will slowly come about. We don't need to think about those big things now. My request is start organizing your neighborhood parliaments. So when he circulated this dream, a dream of the global governance from below, that was the dream we circulated, some two people wrote back and asked me, have you heard about sociocracy? They asked. Till then, I did not hear about sociocracy. Then I went hunting for it. And I found much in common with our concept. It was started, given shape somewhat around 70s, I think. More or less the same time we started here. And then initially, there was one person, it was by Quaker community. And there, somebody already in 1940s, he began to question the merits of democracy. He said, democracy will not solve the problems. It's Winston Churchill, when asked about democracy, he said, democracy was a very bad thing, the worst thing, except for the ones that went before it. So that means so far, among the systems we had so far, this is the best, but not yet good enough. So he was proposing something else. And he said, democracy tends to divide people. Every time, the process is like this, in a democracy. The majority wins. The minority loses. So win and lose game. And when you get a majority, you are happy, exuberant. The other group goes, downhearted, gets depressed, keeps itself aloof, indifferent, resentful, and waits for the next turn. And next turn, if that wins, these people become unhappy. So it's a kind of win-lose game. No consistency or growth, no sense of belonging, because quite a few people keep criticizing like this. Instead of involving and cooperating and building together. So he said, we have to go beyond this. So they formed, it was a Quaker community. Quaker is a kind of a Christian sect. And they are sticklers for equality. They will not allow anybody to dominate and say you are a higher being. No, they will not allow anybody on any basis. So they are sticklers for universe. They said this is not good, that in democracy only the majority plays its role. And you'll have to keep getting people around you, then only you become bigger and smaller. There's no question. So they were trying to develop various other ways of decision making. And then one of the people who was, he started a school. And he was the one who criticized democracy already those days. And then he tried to experiment that in running the school, how to run the school in such a way that everybody is equal, everybody talks. And one fellow who was there, his name is Gerard Endenberg. He became an engineer and he inherited an electronic company from his father. And he said, why not I apply the same principle of decision making in my for-profit company also, as business also. And then he found that eventually it brought in more income, better yield and profits, better work satisfaction, and also at one stage, the whole company, which was about to become extinct, survived because of this. At one stage, it was an electronic company. And then at one stage, the Chinese products came to the market and they were cheaper and people are going for that. And this company was not getting enough orders. So they were saying, okay, we'll have to gradually close the company. We'll lay off some workers like this. And that company was organized in sociocratic way. And sociocratic way is this one. Smaller circles, double linking. That means for everything, in every link circle, one person will, every connected circle, one person from this group will represent this group in this group, and one person from this group will represent this group in this group. So nothing could be hidden. So when it, in that process, when it went, one group, that is, a group of, this blue collared workers, not white collared ones, the technical workers, they came out, they said this need not be, because they said we have enough enough reserve funds to tide over this emergency, and then we have other ways to solve the problem. And they said, if we get enough orders, the company survives. So let us all go to the field wearing cuff shirt, and as salesmen we could go and fetch orders and tell them why our product is still profitable for them in long term. And that way they brought in many orders, companies survived. So people who are not consulted usually in normal companies, they also have a voice. They also have a voice to save the company from extinction. So this fellow, he said, Jared Edwin, he said, this works very well. So why not we create this into a system? So he created it into a system and he called it sociocracy. And in sociocracy, the decision is not by majority, not even by consensus, that is unanimity, but what they call consent. And what is this consent? That's the third principle. The first principle I said, smaller circles. Second principle there in sociocracy is double linking. Third principle is decision by consent. And what does this consent means? What does this consent mean? It means no objection. So he was an engineer. He said, if an engine has to function properly, almost every part must give a signal of no objection to the functioning of its road. So unless it gives every part gives no objection signal to the functioning of other parts, machine cannot function. So he said, why not that as a principle for this human community machine-like? So that began the third principle, no objection. They consider the various options, and you may not be agreeing with provision that they are going to make as a decision, but still we say at this stage this group can go only up to this much. So even if I have still a better vision, I say the group is not yet ready. So I say, go ahead. I don't object. I give my consent. So when I give my consent, I cooperate. Of course, I will keep communicating about whatever I have in my mind, so that next time the group makes a better decision. So it goes like this, no objection. Every voice is listened to. Every objection is taken into account. That way, every conclusion is insulated against future risks, future crisis. And then, the organization goes on like that. And then they have a very beautiful way of election. That's the fourth principle in sociocracy. They call sociocratic elections. There also, the election doesn't go by numbers. That means, you don't need to catch people to win your, drive people to get to your side. Every voice is listened to. It's a good process. Another day they will teach. I think they must already taught you that. I don't know. Sociocratic elections. So we said we will integrate the sociocratic principles, especially their decision-making approach and also their election approach. So put all these things together, we evolved a dream. Now, yeah, this is more or less the, I think for time being I could stop here. Any questions that you have, you can